So, Becca, on this episode, we have someone that I think, I guess I'll get to learn as we go along, that has spent a lot of time in nature. So I know for me, like if I was like in nature and I was like sleeping overnight, I don't know if I would make it through the night,
I knew
but
you were going to say that.
I'm not, but I do love nature. Like here in Cleveland, we have so many great like parks. They call them the metro parks. And I always feel like so at peace and like just, it kind of just nulls the sound of the crazy world,
Yeah.
noisy world that we live in. So kind of, what's your kind of experiences with
I'm a
nature?
big nature baby. I love nature. I like to get dirty. I like to sleep outside. I like to shower outside. It clears my brain. And as somebody who grew up in New York City, the one thing that nature does for me that no other place can do for me is remind me how small I am. Like it just reminds me to be small and humble, especially out here in Colorado. One look at the mountains and you feel like an ant. And it's like that feeling, that reminder that your problems aren't as big as you think they are, and that, you know what I mean? Like just reminding you to be humble and small. And that's what I love about it. It's part of the reason that I moved out here. I like to be barefoot a lot. I don't like to wear shoes and socks. And stuff like that. I'm really an outdoors baby who grew up in like being tortured by New York City all the time. So yeah, but I think this is interesting because I'm now adding it to my mental bucket list for Doug. Now we're doing stand-up comedy, tattoo, and now I'm gonna get you to sleep outside one night. Just
I,
one
I've,
night sleeping
I've
outside.
never in my entire life.
It will freak you out to know that Dennis will sleep outside on a hammock and no tent and no nothing. We are
Wow.
truly outdoor people. And he's somebody that I really enjoy spending time with and someone I really enjoy talking to. So I think you will like him too. So let's welcome Dennis. He is somebody who I'm excited to share with the world, which is fun. Really good person. Welcome, Dennis. Thank
Well,
you for
thanks for
joining
having me.
us.
Happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So yes, he is a nature guy. You are not a nature guy. You will learn about those things though. I think if you should, that's what you should do. You and your wife and the dog should take a whole trip out here to Colorado. You'd all love it. I promise.
I've always wanted to go to Colorado.
You'd fall in love.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what you got for questions, Doug.
Yeah. So Dennis, what's your experience with nature? It seems like you are a big hiking guy. Is that true?
Well, I'm a lot less big than I used to be. Actually, I dropped about 40 pounds in the past year, largely as a result of being active hiking out here in Colorado. But I didn't start out as a nature guy. I grew up in a family that rode and raced motorcycles. I raced extensively in my youth, and our idea of getting out in nature was to hop on a dirt bike and go tear up the woods. And so I've kind of come 180 degrees from there. And yeah, being out in nature and just in general being away from man-made things and man-made chaos, I've found that that's really where I feel at my best, most comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
A- And other than hiking, what are kind of like what do you love doing? What are your special interests?
Well, I love to, along with, there's hiking and there's backpacking where you take off and you go hiking for a few days and you carry what you need on your back. I also like to kayak. I've done a little bit of whitewater rafting. Most of my kayaking has been on flatwater rivers. Being a Michigan guy, we don't have hills or fast water there. But I also bicycle a little bit, and I love to road trip out through mountains. As a matter of fact, just last night got reservations together. We're heading out to Moab, Utah tomorrow. I'm sorry, what is this? On Saturday, we're heading over to Moab just to scout around a little bit and meet with some friends that are maybe some of the badder assiest hiking people on the planet. So I'm looking forward to spending
Yeah.
time with them.
Yeah, see, Dennis and I have a different take on nature. His is all about like using calories and making exercise, and I just sit. I'm a nature sitter. I like to have my feet in the dirt. I like to be on my hammock in the trees. I'm a lazy nature person. He's an active nature person.
You're an observer.
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's a big part of my motivation, is to get out there into the wilderness and pull up a patch of grass up on the Continental Divide or under some pine trees under a lake that's down below the Continental Divide. It's definitely that peaceful, that sense of peace, I guess, that I get out in those places, which motivates me to throw a pack on and lug it up, a few thousand feet to get where I'm going.
Yeah.
Now, now, I've always wanted to go backpacking. I've never done that. But I get scared when I see all these movies about backpacking and it ends in a bad result. So if I was to go on my first backpacking adventure, like how would you suggest I go taking those first steps?
I would probably enlist the guidance of someone who's an experienced backpacker and see if they wouldn't go along with you.
Yeah.
That's something that I really enjoy doing, is introducing people and showing them, okay, here are the things that you really need out there. And it's going to be okay if you wear the same shirt 2 days in a row or 8 days in a row, whatever it may be. Throw in an extra pair of socks, maybe an extra pair of underwear, but other than that, pretty much the same clothes. Pack a set of sleeping clothes and pack them in a watertight bag or something, so that if you get rained on, at least when you get into your sleeping bag, you have dry clothing to get into. But I think that's a big thing, is to find someone. There's probably someone in your circle that you might know who has experience with backpacking, and see if they would take you out. And a good trial run is to camp in your backyard.
Yay. So fun.
Yeah, yeah. And even that, you don't really have to go anywhere. But I love to, in the summer months, go up, spring up my hammock in the backyard and sleep. My son Tucker, who's autistic, he used to declare, usually sometime in May, Dad and Tucker will move to the tent. We'd go out in the backyard, we'd throw up our tent, and we would sleep in the tent all summer long.
Nice.
We didn't sleep in the house at all. And for a few years, because I kind of realized that being in a tent for him, it blocks out a lot of visual chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a little nest. And I realized that he is more comfortable in a tent than he was anywhere. So I bought a yard sale 2-man tent, took it into his bedroom, and we took the bed out. We got rid of everything. We set up the tent, threw in a bunch of El Cheapo sleeping bags, the real silky ones,
Right.
from Walmart, threw in a bunch of pillows, and that became his bed. And he loved no place more than being in there. We strung a little cord in there so he could plug in his iPad or his iPod or whatever he needed. But it really became a bit of a nest for him. And I've suggested that to a lot of parents who, I think we all understand, sometimes autistic kids, it's hard to find that comfortable spot. For some people, they get it with a weighted blanket maybe. And for Tucker, it was always in a tent.
So you were okay. So you're out there in the tent. How do you fit your mattress in there?
Oh, Doug, we're taking you. I'm gonna kidnap you in the night. I'm gonna make you wake up with twigs in your hair and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, when did I last own a mattress? right now I'm in a house share thing, and it came with a bed already in it. But I, going on television, and I haven't had a plugged-in television in 6 or 7 years anyway.
Freeing. It must be so freeing.
Yes.
So you mentioned your son, and I saw, I think it was fairly recently, where it looked like maybe it was a Zoom call where you were reading The Boy Who Spoke to the Earth.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I guess it's a book about a boy who asks the earth where he can find happiness.
Yes, yes. And that's always been a very important part of our bonding, our routine as Tucker was growing up. I did the single parenting thing with him for about 5 years, and I just had to figure out some things that really worked. Reading together became a huge, in many ways, it was a bonding moment for us where, and I learned this from a woman who, she was a complete stranger, came to stay with our next door neighbor. We had her over for dinner one evening, and at the end of the evening, I walked her out to the porch, and she was going back to her house, and she said, you have a remarkable talent for reading your son and understanding what he needs. There were several times tonight I saw you respond to what he needed. There was no verbal interaction at all. And Tucker is conversationally nonverbal, non-speaking, I guess is the best term for it. She said that, that's just amazing. She said, I have worked in the, as a caregiver for 35 years. So I have picked up some strategies along the way. And I said, what do you think, what one tip would you give to me? Tucker was, I think, 10 years old at the time. And she said, the one thing that's done most value to me, and I think would be valuable to any parent, is that when you get to a level of frustration or when something's not going your way, your natural inclination is to raise your voice. And she said, I have learned to lower my voice by the same amount. And that has been a tremendous help to me over the years. It's, I often tell people that when you've got kiddos who are not, when verbal is not their primary means of communication, or you've got a processing delay of some sort, you need to learn to listen with your eyes, your ears, and your feet. The ears are not enough.
Yeah. I'm envious of your relationship with him. It's, I had a very similar relationship with my mom where I didn't have to say things, or she had learned over the years how to kind of help me to process through certain situations, like public situations and things. And it became kind of like a non-conversation thing. And I think that is really the relationship that autistic kids appreciate the most with their parents, because it's like, I don't have to work so hard. I don't have to work so hard in this, and you'll help me to get through it. And I feel understood and heard and all of those things. And I had that only with one parent. And so I'm envious of your relationship with him. And I hope other people out there are envious as well. Because we communicate in so many more ways than just verbal. And so if you're focusing on only verbal, you're missing out on so much in people.
Absolutely. And I think that's a talent or a skill that we develop, especially if we're in a relationship with a person who's not a verbal communicator, is we pick up skills and the ability to observe and learn, and that just becomes a universal benefit. It works with any group of people. I don't care how verbal they are. And I don't place a lot of value on words.
Yeah. It's
actions and just observing people. I can pick up more than I can from listening to their words.
Yeah.
And sometimes the words don't match
Oh yeah.
the actions.
Yeah.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense because most of our communication is not verbal anyway.
Right.
I-
You
I'm a,
know that.
yeah. I'm a big believer in like energy. So I'm just wondering how much is it, how much do you think, you talked about skills, but how much is it you just maybe just having a really good sense of your son's energy?
Well, that's a big part of it. I really do. But it's something that I guess I didn't realize I had until I had to have it.
Mhm.
And I realized that, geez, I need to place more, um, I need to stick with my gut when I feel something.
Mhm.
I need to honor that rather than say, I'm probably off base here. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably not interpreting that correctly.
How much do you think that has to do with your own autism versus Tooques and how it all played together?
I think it's got a lot to do with my own. I grew up, I never read a book in school. Until I was college age, I'd never read a book. I couldn't pay attention to anything in a school setting. Fortunately, I learned that if I did things that were funny, which generally would get me in trouble, or if um, I guess mouthed off would be the most correct term,
Mhm.
that I could mask the fact that I couldn't learn.
Mhm.
I was popular. I was voted on the homecoming court and student council vice president and president, and won some dance contests, and I DJ'd the dances, and I played some sports, but I couldn't learn.
Mhm.
Well, I couldn't learn in the school setting.
Mhm.
I was learning plenty outside of the school setting, but in the building,
Yeah.
not much. And of course, I was labeled as being lazy and belligerent and that kind of thing, which I was fine with that. I didn't want to be labeled as stupid.
Yeah.
So
We were talking about hiking and backpacking and all those things earlier. In terms of travel, where are some places you've been to?
um, well, I spent my early 20s living in Japan, military situation. However, I didn't fit the military mold very well because I like to live out. I was stationed in Japan for 4.5 years. I like to live out in the Japanese economy, and I raced motocross with some Japanese people who took me to different places around the country. So I got a real uh, flavor for Japanese culture
Mm.
and respect for one another. A good example is the whole face mask thing that our country seems to
Oh
struggle
yeah.
mightily with. And I remember back in the mid '80s, if a local, if one of my neighbors had a sneeze or a cough or felt, some sort of a bug, they would wear a face mask.
Mhm.
And I asked, what's the purpose of that? And it's, well, it helps to protect us from getting our neighbors and our friends sick. This was in the mid '80s.
Yeah.
So I come back to the U.S. in '88, I guess it was, and I was shocked at the difference in the cultures.
Yeah.
Whereas the thing that went through my mind is, why are you people so mean to each other? You're disrespectful, um, and I didn't understand it. And it hasn't gotten any better since then.
Yeah.
But as far back to your question, I'm sorry, Doug, is as far as backpacking, hiking, that kind of thing. We've got Rocky Mountain National Park right here in our backyard. I live in the Denver area. I had a few guys from Michigan come out last summer. We did a 4-night trip. Had another friend come out from Wisconsin. She and I went up into the James Peak Wilderness. absolutely stunning places that there's also Indian Peaks Wilderness, and I've hiked, I guess, the first 300 or 350 miles of the Appalachian Trail, starting from Georgia, moving north up to Irwin, Tennessee. Done some hiking in Michigan, Ontario. Whenever people ask me, well, hey, I'm coming to Michigan, where's the best place for me to go backpacking? You know, bang for the buck, where can I see the greatest things? And say Ontario. And be like, oh, okay, great.
Not in Michigan, apparently.
Is that in Michigan? Well, it's close enough.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Sierra Nevadas, I've done some backpacking out there. Tucker and I did. I don't know if Becca shared with you or not, Doug, but in 2016, Tucker and I lived out of our minivan for a year. Traveled around the country. We visited 49 national parks.
Wow.
I say we visited 49 national parks, but I have to be careful because of the park units. Some of those are memorial units or historical units, but probably 39 proper national parks. And we did a little hiking in most of them. We camped out overnight in a couple of them. But there's so much to see in this country. But I do, Nepal and the Himalaya is at the top of my list, and I'm working on getting a trip going there.
Was there one place you like that was like the worst that you would never want to return to ever again?
That's a good question, because in 2018, my hiking partner, Linda, once a year, once every other year, we would try and do a section of the Appalachian Trail. And our last trip on the Appalachian Trail, we decided we're not coming back, because it just seemed like the scenery was the same, for the past 300, 350 miles. We had an exciting bear encounter, though, so that kind of spiced things up a little bit. But at least the Southern Appalachian Trail, I don't think I'll go back. Got lots of things down there that I love to see, but maybe get up into New Hampshire and Maine, that would be something different. But one thing that I've surprised myself over the years is, anytime that Tucker and I would head out, even if it was a day hike for at a local nature center or somewhere in Michigan, if the weather was questionable, it seemed like we would get out there and be walking along and look up and go, you know what? It turned out to be a freaking gorgeous day. It just seems to happen that way.
Perfect.
Well, was there anything we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I've received praise and support and whatnot in this area over the years, and that is for parents who have a child who is either diagnosed as autistic or just exhibits some tendencies. As parents, you need to get over yourself. When you become a parent, it's no longer about you. You need to tune into your child, and what is it that moves your child? What is it that they enjoy? What is it that makes them comfortable? What is it that helps them learn? You need to understand those things, and Johnny's going to be the quarterback, that's kind of he's going to take his team to state. Forget about it. Understand what your child is about, honor your child, take them by the hand and get in step with them. That is how you raise a healthy child. I don't care if it's an autistic child or not. But you need to step aside and understand that you have a role for, what may 18, 20 years, whatever it may be, that you're going to have a child under your roof. we need to help prepare them for adulthood.
Yeah.
I don't mean by tough love. I mean by helping them to respect themselves and believe in themselves, so that when they get out there, they're not easily swayed by the, I don't know if you're aware or not, but society has some shiny things out there that people like to chase after. And I think we need to prepare our kids. And I see this with a lot of the autistic parents that I know and interact with.
Mm-hmm.
I see them doing a really good job in that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's if I could leave people with anything, it's honor your child and work with them. Don't force them to do what you think they should be doing. They'll
Nice.
find a way.
Well, I think that just about takes us to our 11 questions. Are you ready for the fun questions?
I am.
Yay! This is my favorite part. I wait for it every time.
All right, Dennis. So the kind of the first question we always start out with are, what are your pronouns?
He, him, his.
And what is your preferred stim?
I would say, and I realized that I developed this in my school years, but it's chewing the inside of my mouth.
Mm,
Very effective when you're masking.
yes.
Yeah. And what is your favorite curse word?
Fuck, I don't know. That's it. That's it. Pretty universal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic that has stand the test of time.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Who do you love, and what are you doing about it?
Love the sun. And right now I am in a what's going to prove to be a long, difficult battle to restore his civil rights, which have been taken away from him. I will leave it at that. You know, I'll just say that the only intention I ever had in raising him was to help him become a healthy human being. And I'm fighting to get back the ability for him to continue moving in that direction.
Tough to transition from that, but you may be neurotypical if.
You may be neurotypical if you value your own opinions above all else.
Mm.
And
a lot of my good friends are neurotypical, and so, or at least they think they are.
Right.
You may be autistic if.
You are authentic as fuck, and it's very painful to be that way.
Yes.
Authenticity.
What's something you want to learn or to be better at?
I want to learn to play the guitar.
Yes.
And something that I want to be better at. Photography.
Nice.
I go to a lot of really cool places, and I take a lot of photos with my iPhone, and people are like, "Oh my God, it's beautiful! I love it." And just recently, it occurred to me that maybe I should learn how to take photos if I'm going to be going out. I once heard I'm a journalist by trade, but I once heard a well-known photographer reply to the question, what can you advise me to do to be a better photographer?
Mhm.
And his answer was, stand in front of better things. And I
It's
thought,
true.
that's
Oh, that's a
perfect.
really good answer.
Because you can take a crappy photo of a really cool mountain landscape and people will ooh and ah over it. So,
Yeah.
What autistic social media account should people be paying attention to?
Nico Boskovic.
Mm,
You guys familiar with Nico?
not well, but I've heard the name.
He is the most insightful teenager you will ever come across. He's in Portland, Oregon, and he is able to take the autistic experience and relate it just in such a vivid way that anybody can understand. From talking about his assistive communication uh, practices and able to go back to a bullying situation when he was a little boy and explain not only his feelings, but the feelings of the person who was bullying him.
Mm.
Just an incredible young man. I would encourage anybody uh, to plug into him on Facebook. It's Nico Boskovic, B like boy, Sko, V like Victor, IC. I just enjoy him, and I'm in a few, as you know, Beck, I'm in a couple of autistic community kind of closed or whatnot groups. There's also a good one out there called Autistic Allies that I highly recommend. Matter of fact, I've been working with a young parent in Virginia who is looking for a place that she and her husband can relocate because they've got a little boy who's autistic, and this mother gets it.
Mm.
Done a lot of research, and she's narrowed down to what kind of a community they want for their son. So I was talking with her for a while today, and said, hey, by the way, I don't know if you're on this Autistic Allies page or not, but I would recommend it. She came back and said, yep, I'm on there.
Yeah.
What's one thing in your routine you couldn't possibly live without?
Nothing.
Oh.
Good
Nothing.
answer. And to Becca's favorite question, dog, cat, or must I choose?
Yes, and apparently I do choose, but right now I don't have a pet at all. We do have a big old burly black cat named Lucky. He and I are growing pretty tight here in our household, but he's not my pet. But I will have a pooch in the near future. Matter of fact, Becca, we have a mutual friend who lives to the south of you.
Yeah.
Who was, yeah.
Yeah.
She nearly got me to go pick up a dog, but I didn't.
Yeah. It's coming. You'll get there.
Oh yeah.
And then lastly, probably to the question that this podcast is all about, what does autistic joy mean to you?
I think I felt a pretty solid dose of it about a week I'm on board of directors for Autism Society of Colorado, and we run some support groups, different groups of people, and one of them is for autistic people who are age 40 and over. And now that I think about it, I'm thinking about a couple of the young women that are in there. They can't possibly be 40, but it was so nice to be in that group for the very first time last Tuesday night. And Tuesday, yes, tonight. Because I came from a place in Michigan, which comparatively Michigan is kind of in the dark ages with regard to neurodiversity, autism acceptance, autism awareness is more of a thing there still than autism acceptance. Literally, I lived in a town which is the global headquarters for, I think, the world's biggest chemical company that rhymes with cow. But it's based in mid-Michigan, and you can't throw a stick without hitting an engineer. But there is, I will say, no freedom for autistic people in that Central Michigan community to operate out.
I see.
Everyone is nasty. So I come out here and I meet people on the street and I share with them, well, you know, I'm on the autism spectrum, and oh, well, you know, what is your experience like? It's not, yeah, you don't look autistic. I find this region along the Front Range here in Colorado to be very, very progressive and accepting of everyone, everything again. And now I will also reveal that I am highly ADHD, Doug. So I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. It was great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time and spoons to join us, Dennis. I appreciate it so much. I really, really respect you as a human being, and I love spending time with you. So next time you're up and about in the mountains, you know where to find us. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out to see us. So I guess that's another episode in the can for us, and we'll be moving on to the next one.
Okay. Thank you guys both very, very much. Appreciate it.